Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to your Computer Systems Servicing NC2 class. I am your teacher, Mrs. Diana Caridad-Cos, and welcome to your ICT online class. Our topic for today is still in your core competency number 1, which is installing and configuring computer systems. And our objective is at the end of the lesson, learners are expected to, number 1, prepare unit assembly to ensure OHS policies and procedures are followed in accordance with systems requirements. And our topic for today is about assembling computer systems. Assuming that you already have your desired specification of your system, and now it's time to make your computer look like this. Are you excited to learn new things? Okay, let's go! But of course, before that, you need to identify what are the tools you are going to need before starting to assemble your computer. What do you think are the tools you'll be needing in assembling your computer? Yes, we only have 2 types of tools. Number 1 is your standard screwdriver, or what we call the negative, commonly known as the negative screwdriver, and of course your Phillips screwdriver or the positive screwdriver. What about an optional tools for disassembling your computer? Yes, you need to have an eraser. For what? For cleaning your memory, the sound card, or video card. Okay? You need to have an eraser in cleaning a particular card. Next, we have flashlight. For what? For a dark spot in your system case. Okay? You'll be needing a flashlight. And of course, you need to have a brush. Brush for what? To dust out or to wipe, to clean the internal components of your computer system, is specifically your system case. Next, we have a rags or a typical pot holder. Why? You need to use this one to wipe the outside component of your system case. Okay, you need to use a rags. Then we have a bubble bag and an anti-static bag. For what? This is where you will store your very sensitive component like processor, RAM, or the memory card, the sound card, and the video card. Okay, so again, those are the additional tools you'll be needing if you want to disassemble your system. And in assembling your system, you only need 2 types of tools, and that is a screwdriver, the standard, and the Phillips screwdriver. Before we continue to the assembling process, let's have a recap about our previous discussion. I hope you still remember the last time. Okay. So that is the internal components of your computer system. I hope you can still identify the different or the basic parts of your computer system. Again, when we say system case, it houses the internal components of a computer. Okay, what is that? Of course, that is your motherboard or the system board, which holds together many of the crucial components of a computer. Okay, the different types of drives. We have the optical drive and the hard disk drive. Again, for the optical drive, we have two types. It's either SATA or IDE type. And of course, same also with your hard disk drive. We also have two types, an IDE type and a SATA type. Again, if you are using a SATA type of either optical drive or hard disk drive, you need to use a SATA cable. And if you have your IDE type of optical drive and hard disk drive, of course, you need to use a data type of cable. Is that clear? Okay, very good. Okay, next we have the ATX power supply and its different connectors. Starting off with P1 is the generic term for 20 or 24-pin ATX power connector. Then we have the 12 volts ATX power connector. We have the Molex power connector and the SATA power connector. We also have the Central Processing Unit or the CPU, which is the heart and brain of your computer. And we only have two manufacturers of CPU, and that is your Intel and AMD. Then we have the different types of RAM or the physical memory of your computer. We have DDR1, DDR2, DDR3, DDR4, and the latest one, we have DDR5. And for your laptop, that is called SODIMM or Single Outline Dual Inline Memory Module, dedicated for laptops only. There you go. I hope you still remember our last lesson. Okay, let's proceed now to the OHS. What do you mean by OHS? Yes, that is Occupational Health and Safety Procedure. You need to observe the following OHS before you start assembling or disassembling the computer system. Okay, number one, avoid direct contact with the electricity. Or if you're going to disassemble the computer, you need to unplug it from the outlet. Okay? Number two, secure or check and prepare the materials and workplace. So, make sure that you already have the needed components before you start to assembling your computer, and make sure you have clean working area or working table. Number five, apply ESD or electrostatic discharge. How are you going to do that if you don't have an anti-static rest trap? So what are you going to do is very simple. You just use your bare hand and touch a bare metal, for example, the chassis of your computer case for about 2 to 3 minutes, okay, in order to discharge some electricity from your body. So that is 2 to 3 minutes. And then after that, you can now start assembling your computer. As easy as that if you don't have an anti-static rest trap. Again, what are you going to do? You touch or hold a bare metal. It can be your screwdriver or the chassis of your computer system for about 2 to 3 minutes. And then after that, you can now start assembling your computer. Okay? Next, apply 5S. What is 5S? That is sort, sit in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. So avoid doing messy, or before you start assembling your computer, make sure that you have a very tidy working space. You have your tools with you, you have a complete component, then you can start assembling your computer. Okay, number 6, use an anti-static protection. But if you don't have an anti-static protection, just like a rest strap, what you're going to do is always hold your screwdriver. You just always hold it while working on your computer components. You just hold your screwdriver from time to time. And then the last one we have is work on a dry and clean areas. So do not put any liquid component near your working space. Okay, so that's all. Again, those are the OHS you need to observe before you start assembling your computer. Okay, what are the steps in assembling your PC or your personal computer? Are you ready? Okay, number 1, of course, you open first your motherboard, and then you install the CPU in the CPU socket, CPU fan, and the CPU power connector into the motherboard. First, you need to unwrap your motherboard and then install the CPU in the CPU socket. We have 2 types of socket, by the way. We have LGA CPU socket and PGA CPU socket. That is LAN grid array and pin grid array. So what I'm showing to you is an example of a LAN grid array. Okay, so then after that, after you install the CPU, of course, you need to install the FAHA or the fan and heatsink assembly. And remember to ZIF. What is ZIF? Zero insertion force. Next, after you install the memory, the CPU, you need now to install the memory stick in the memory slot. Depending on your motherboard of what type of memory does it support, each memory card has a different configuration in every motherboard. So you need to be cautious on that. Then after that, you need to lay down the system case. And now it's time to install the motherboard with a processor and a memory. And then after that, you need to install the power supply unit. Just set aside first all the connectors like the 20 or 24 pin ATX power connector, the MOLEX, the SATA, and mini power connector. By the way, the mini power connector is dedicated for floppy disk drive only. After you install the PSU or the power supply unit, you need to install now all the drives like hard disk drive, optical disk drive, and floppy drive. And after that, after you install all the drives, connect all power connectors to its corresponding devices. So if your ODD is an IDE type, the power connector for that is MOLEX. But if your ODD is a SATA type, of course, the power connector for that is SATA power connector. Then you need to connect the front panel connectors and the USB connectors. And then after that, you need to install all the cables. It's either IDE or the SATA cable. Then, double check all the connections if they are properly and firmly connected. Why you need to do this one? It's because 70% of computer problem is just a loose cable or power connectors. That is why as future technician, we need to double check if all the connections are properly or firmly connected. And then you need to run the system to check if all the components are working properly. In doing so, you no need to put or to install the cover of the system case. Just in case that there are some components that are not working, it's very easy for you to locate the problem, to diagnose the problem, okay? And now, if you don't encounter any problem, your system is now assembled and ready for use. Okay, let's have a thorough discussion about this one, your USB header or your USB connector. Okay, your USB connector has 9 pins. Okay. Okay, we will have an exercise for that one. Okay, so I hope you can see me clearly because we're having an exercise, a hand exercise for that one. Okay. Let me zoom in. Okay, that's it. I hope you can see my hands now. Okay. You just fold, gently fold your thumb, the right one, and then do this one. Okay. So assuming this is your 9-pin USB connector. So you need to memorize this one so that you can do the, you know how to install the USB heater or the USB connector, okay, in the motherboard. Okay, so you do this one, then do this one. After the null, this one, this is your null, this is your null. After the null, this one is ground. Ground, positive, negative, 5 volts. Okay, again. After the null, this one, after the null, you have the ground, positive, negative, and 5 volts. Okay, let's do this. USB. Ground, positive, negative, 5 volts. I hope you can see my fingers or my hands. Okay, again. Okay, USB. Okay, this is the null. After the null is ground, positive, negative, 5 volts. Okay, so let's take a look with my presentation. Okay, here you go. You see, after the null is the ground, and then positive, negative, 5 volts. That is the correct configuration of your USB connector. After the null, this is your null, ground, positive, negative, 5 volts. Let's do the exercise one more time. Null, ground, positive, negative, 5 volts. Okay, again. USB. Ground, positive, negative, 5 volts. Ground, positive, negative, 5 volts. Ground, positive, negative, 5 volts. That's it. So I hope you memorize that song so that every time you will assemble the computer, or you will do a computer servicing outside or in your neighbor, it's very easy for you to configure the USB connectors. Again, USB, ground, positive, negative, 5 volts, ground, positive, negative, 5 volts. That's after the null. I hope you get that one. Okay, next. Okay, this is the front panel connections or connector. The front panel connector enable you to switch on or turn on your computer by pushing the power button. If it is not properly configured, then you cannot turn on or switch on your computer or desktop. Okay, so okay, let me zoom in again so that you can see my hands. Let's have an exercise, a hand exercise for that one. Okay, I hope you can see my hands. Okay, so if this is your null, after the null is your this two pin power switch, negative, positive. Okay, this is your reset switch and HDD LED. Did you get that one? Again, for the FPC or the front panel connection, FPC. Okay, this is your null. This is your null. After the null is power switch, negative, positive. Okay, then this is your reset switch and HDD LED. Okay, so let's take a look on the diagram. Okay, so you see after the null is the power switch, negative, positive. Then the other side is the reset switch and HDD LED. So that's the color coding for it. But actually it depends upon the motherboard, but actually they don't have, sometimes they don't have a color coding. So I just make use of the color so that you will know that the power switch has 2 pins, while the negative only 1 pin and the positive 1 pin. HDD LED has 2 pins and the reset switch has 2 pins. Okay, again, let's do the hand exercise. Okay, shall we? FPC. I hope you can see my hands. Okay, FPC. This one for the negative and positive. Okay, again, FPC. After the null, power switch, negative, positive, reset switch, HDD LED. Okay, so again, FPC. Power switch, negative, positive, reset switch, HDD LED. Okay, PC, FPC. So you look at my hands. FPC. Power switch, negative, positive. Reset switch, HDD LED. Okay. You can memorize that one because that would be great help if you will be servicing outside. You want to configure the front panel connection. Okay. I hope you enjoy my little hand exercise. Okay, next. Okay, let's have a mind bites. This is my favorite part, a mind bites. Okay. What are the steps in assembling a computer? Okay, you know the answer? Number 1 is install the CPU. Then after you install the CPU, of course, you need also to install the FAHA or the fan and heatsink assembly. Next, install all cards like memory card, sound card, and video card. Number 3, install the motherboard. Number 4, install the power supply unit. Number 5, install all drives like hard disk drive and optical disk drive. Then connect all power connectors and front panel connectors, and of course, the USB connectors. For front panel connectors, FPC, after the null, we have power switch, negative, positive, reset switch, and HDD LED. What about the USB? The USB is very easy to memorize. USB, ground positive, negative 5 volts, ground positive, negative 5 volts, ground positive, negative 5 volts. That's it. Okay, number 7. Install all cables like IDE or SATA cables. And the last one, double check all the connections if they are properly or firmly connected. I hope you learned something from our video tutorial today. So that is my references for today's topic. Disassembling and assembling the computer system. Step-by-step instruction to assemble a computer. And if you want to see some videos about disassembling, please visit my channel, Diana Carey. So I hope you learned something from today's topic and see you tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless us all. This is your teacher, Mrs. Diana Caridad Cos. Happy to serve.